On behalf of our Chancellor, Dr. G.E. Ghali, I'd like to welcome everyone here today. Unfortunately, Dr. Ghali got called to a mandatory meeting in Baton Rouge. I'm sure most of you are aware that we are down to the final negotiation with Ochsner, and now that we have a budget and have something to make firm decisions on, it is full steam ahead. And he was very disappointed and worked very hard to try to get the meeting changed, but because of the number of people involved, he did not win that battle. So therefore, you have me today, and my name is Lisa Babin, and I'm the Director of Communications, and it's really an honor that it worked out this way to be a part of Joe's very special day. So when I first started my career at LSU running the foundation, the School of Allied Health and the foundation were in the same building, and got a chance to know Joe and have witnessed all the great things he's done. So I also extend a word from Dr. Chris Kevill, our Vice Chancellor of Research, who is at NIH, who said he wants to wish you the best in retirement. He's jealous, so please don't come up here in your shorts and tell everybody how much fun you're having while the rest of us are still working. Regardless of who could or could not be here today, I think we all know that we're here for a very, very special purpose. Dr. McCulloch has given 38 years, I venture to say the best years of his life he's given right here to LSU Health, because we know that Gail was in that, his family was in that. So truly, these have been the best years of his life, and we've been very fortunate that he spent those here. It's widely recognized that he's been instrumental in a number of very positive changes at the School of Allied Health. But before we start going through these pages and pages of accolades, let's talk about that education, that northern education that brought him to the South to make such a difference. He attended the University of South Carolina as a pre-physical therapy major and went on to the Medical College of Virginia to get a degree, a Bachelor of Science in Physical Therapy, on to New York University for a master's degree in pathokinesiology, and then his PhD in philosophy with a curriculum and instruction major and a pathokinesiology minor. So well educated, and we became the beneficiary of that. His professional experience leading him to LSU Health Sciences Center was at J.T. Gilbert's and Associates. Y'all are going to be punished because I don't have a podium here, but I'm going to manage best I can. In Joe's inaugural job after graduating with his PhD, he was involved in a private practice dealing primarily with musculoskeletal outpatient injuries, and he also provided acute care coverage for 2 hospitals in Jackson, Mississippi. You see, he finally wised up and came to the South. From there, he erred in his ways. He went back to New York, 1972 to 1976, where he served at the U.S. Public Health Service in a government outpatient clinic in Manhattan, nonetheless, dealing primarily with musculoskeletal and neurological injuries. His clients consisted of American seamen, federal employees injured on the job, military personnel, and the dependents of federal agents. The final 2 years of his service additionally involved administrative duties when he became the deputy director of the department. Wised up again, back to the South. U.S. Public Health Service in New Orleans from 1976 to 1979, where he worked in a large government acute care hospital and outpatient clinic with a service and population served similar to the Manhattan Outpatient Clinic. From there, he became the assistant professor, Department of Physical Therapy in New Orleans, and an assistant professor and director of the Shreveport program. In 1981, he finally made the golden choice and moved to Shreveport. He began his ascent to becoming the top dog, or as his staff refers to him as, the legend, which began with an appointment as an assistant professor of orthopedic surgery. He then became the director of rehabilitation services. He was at the VA Medical Center, the Children's Center at LSU, associate professor and head Department of Physical Therapy, which was based in Shreveport, but also had him responsible for clinics in New Orleans and Shreveport. Professor of Physical Therapy, acting assistant dean for clinical affairs, assistant dean for clinical affairs, executive associate dean, director of wound healing of the Diabetic Limb and Wound Care Clinic, and in 2004, Dr. McCulloch became the dean of the School of Allied Health Professions. The positive impact of his leadership and dedication include, but are not limited to, the planning and construction of the building that you are in. And for those of you who have been here long enough to understand the difference from where this came and where we are today, light years doesn't even describe the difference. So the impact on the patients as well as the faculty who spend so many countless hours here have really benefited from the hours and hours that Joe spent in making sure that this building would serve the faculty and the patients the very best that it could. And it was certainly not without its challenges, was it, Joe? He went on to develop the first and still the only wound care residency in the U.S., which stands to reason because of Joe's international recognition for his expertise in wound care. Joe has served on the Association for the Advancement of Wound Care and the American Board of Wound Care Management for over 20 years, holding leadership roles in both organizations. He also served as the president of the American Board of Wound Foundation Management. He has been a strong voice in the expansion of the doctoral programs and in serving as a beloved and outstanding teacher, mentor, and dean. Here to share more personal insight on Dr. McCulloch's career is Dr. Ed Mahoney.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Can you hear me? I have it written down, so I won't go off script, because there's cameras and I'll say something that'll be recorded. So I am honored to have the opportunity to speak on behalf of all the people that are fortunate enough to have Dr. McCulloch as a mentor. In his 40-plus year career, I can't imagine how many people that is, but I do know that his influence extends much beyond the walls here today. This spring, after Dr. McCulloch announced his retirement, I had the opportunity to present with him at our National Wound Care Conference. It was amazing to see how many people came up to me at the conference to express their appreciation for what he had done for them, for their profession, and for wound care in general. Now, as many of you probably know, one of Dr. McCulloch's passions is cooking. I, on the other hand, have no culinary skills. However, one thing I do know is that if you aren't present in the kitchen while dinner's being prepared, you don't get much say in what you're going to eat. Dr. McCulloch's career has coincided with a tremendous growth in our PT profession. You could say we've moved from the kiddie table, where others put food on our plate, to the grown-up table, where we're at least part of the conversation. Now, as a chef, Dr. McCulloch wasn't content with a seat at the adult table, so he just barged into the kitchen. Now, healthcare kitchens are much like your grandmother's kitchen, so if you're in the way, you're going to be promptly ushered out. In his case, though, it was apparent that he could make meaningful contributions and was someone that could be trusted and thus was allowed to stay. Not only did he question the recipes, such as soaking venous leg ulcers in whirlpools, but he opened the door for others to enter the kitchen. This is true on our campus, where his leadership led to an expanded role for our faculty, as well as on a national scale, where numerous clinicians, both PTs and others, followed in his footsteps to take leadership roles in various organizations such as the LPTA, the APTA, the AAWC, the ABWM, and more acronyms that you can make up if you wish. To me, this is his legacy more than anything else. It's easy to rule with an iron fist, but it takes a much more effective leader to get out of the way and give others the opportunity to succeed. Those of us in allied health have seen this in action, where Dr. McCulloch dragged us into the proverbial kitchen to lead a committee or take over some other task, while we felt like we still probably belonged at the kids' table. This approach led to the development of an empowered faculty that's made the School of Allied Health what it is today. Working closely with him in wound care since essentially day one, when I started as a therapist in the newly created Diabetic Limb and Wound Care Clinic, really gave me an interesting perspective on his leadership style. Now, as a new grad, it would have been very easy for Dr. McCulloch to ignore me, but he didn't. He made a concerted effort to spend time teaching me in the clinic while making himself readily available for consults on difficult patients, which as a new grad was every patient. He was also quick to include me on various research projects long before I would have believed I was competent to do so. This is not unique to me. He's done the same for many others, whether it was helping them get published or giving them an opportunity to present at a national meeting, encouraging involvement in professional organizations, or mentoring them as they stepped into various leadership positions. So to wrap this up, before I say anything too nice and risk his head getting any bigger than it already is, I'll finish by saying thank you for your leadership and friendship. You've been instrumental to the careers of so many people, and I'm glad to say that I was lucky enough to be one of them. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Dennis Wissing to come forward and share more insight into Dr. Joe McCulloch.
She asked me to comment or reflect on his management style as a boss. He and I have worked 35 years together, and of those 35, 14 I worked for him. And he refers to me as his free-range chicken, and probably some truth to that. He was not a micromanager, absolutely not. Big-time macro. He mentored you. He role modeled me. He was my favorite mentor. I've had the privilege of working since 8th grade. I've always had respect from my bosses, in this case, the highest respect. He got mad only one time at me, Tony and I. He came and got mad at Tony and I. It's the only time I can remember him getting mad in the years I've seen him. And he was wrong. He apologized to Tony, but not me. I'll never forget that. He's very inclusive. If you're going to be part of his team, committee, class, he's going to make everybody's going to feel like they're a part. He will speak to everybody. So it's not, you're never isolated or ostracized. He makes you feel a part of the team. And I think he expects everyone to do their work. I mean, he really does. He doesn't email me and say, why haven't you done that? He expects, and the team performs for him. Everybody that works for him will do their job because of him. So it's been an honor and a privilege. And now that you're home, we're going to say a prayer for Gail. I'm going to put you on my prayer list at my church for the rest of this time. But anyway, anybody else would like to come up and say a few words? This is a good time to do that. Paula?
Got to move it down when you're short. After working with Joe for the last 27 years, I too want to support all the accolades that you've heard about him, but I thought it might also be fun for you to hear some of the things that you might not know about Joe from way back. The first time I met Joe, he probably doesn't remember this, but he was in a public health uniform, and we were both at a training session for clinical instructors. And all of us were sitting down in a room, and in come these 5 or 6 good-looking men in the Navy-looking uniforms, and they all held their white hat under their shoulder or under their arm. And one of the younger men looked a little funny, and so the girl next to me kind of elbows me and says, "You see that guy with the glasses over there? How does he get all that red hair in that bush in that hat at one time?" So that was our discussion the entire weekend. How does he get it in that hat? Some of you may not know that Joe is a wine connoisseur and used to own a wine shop here in town. So if you need a little advice, he might be the person to go to. You also have heard that he's a very good cook, and I hear that he's the chief cook and bottle washer at his house. But good job, Gail. Some of you may not know that how Joe proposed to his wife. I thought that might be kind of a fun thing to hear about, and one of my patients did some clarifying about that today. So many of you may know that Joe has been a pilot and used to fly down to the New Orleans campus, because at one point in time we taught on the New Orleans campus some of the same things that we taught here at the LSU campus, because we were a sister program. I won't say satellite, because we never were really a true program. We were pretty independent, if you know Joe. Anyway, Gail is at work. As you know, she's an attorney, and in her office, Joe made plans for her to learn about his intentions. Joe shows up for a visit and has Gail's boss call her to the window, and guess how Joe proposed? There was a plane outside that did the proposing. Now, there are probably many details about this that you want to ask Joe and Gail about after we finish today, but that's how I understand you found out about his intentions, out the window in the sky. When our program was smaller and we were over in the other building in the clinic we call the dungeon, by the way, if you happen to hear that word, in the clinic, very often we were very busy, and occasionally I would walk by and see people on the equipment that we just used for individuals when we were teaching students. And one day I saw an older man with a bald head sitting on that equipment, and I go up to Joe and I go up to Wes and say, should we run that guy off, because they really shouldn't be playing on our equipment? Guess what Dr. McCulloch said? Oh, don't worry about that. That's just the chancellor, Dr. Muslow. He can play on that equipment anytime he wants to. And when our faculty was smaller, we would often take our lunch into the conference room. And in that conference room, we would talk about many things. A lot of times it wasn't physical therapy, but Joe was always in the middle of conversation, always very intent, and always pushing his point. And at that point, we had a new faculty member who was one of our graduates. So Daniel, you're not the first former student that we hired. Beverly Owens was her name, and she was a little bitty, cute little bitty girl, but she could hold her own when she was talking with Joe. So they were intent on a conversation, and they were just kind of, you know how he can kind of needle you into a little bit more depth. And it became 12:50, and we knew that was time for us to get up and start to get ready to go to 1 o'clock class. So we do, but Joe and Beverly are still going at it. So they walk along the hallway, and I cut off to my office, and in a moment I hear a little bitty Beverly say, "Joe, you can't be in here." Joe has followed her into the ladies' room, intent on his conversation. So those are a few of the fun memories that I remember from Joe.
Anybody else?
I really don't have much to say. I just wanted to get up here and say that I've been with Dr. McCulloch for 28 years, and it's been the best 28 years that I could work for anybody. That I'm gonna miss him very much. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying not to. I know my first evaluation, Dr. McCulloch called me in his office, and the 3 things he told me, he said, watch your visits, personal phone calls, and keep your desk clean. So those 3 things I have stuck to for the whole 28 years that I've been with him. And I'm gonna miss you, and I love you.
Joe, you didn't say nothing about my desk being clean. You didn't tell me.
I'm Joe's pastor at First Presbyterian Church, and so a lot of what I'd like to share is under pastor confidentiality agreement. So I can't, but I will share a couple things about Joe that I think would enrich our understanding of him. One is during church services, sometimes when I'm preaching, I can feel my phone buzzing in my pocket, and it will be Joe texting me from the balcony, something that he thinks is relevant at that time. He is in church, so that's a positive. The other thing that I heard from Robert Stroud recently is Joe is the leader of a very active and faithful Sunday school class and beyond at our church called the Pathfinders, and that at some point in their development, they always eat breakfast, a lavish breakfast every morning. Sometimes Joe makes it, sometimes other members of the class make it. And for a while, Joe thought it was good to kind of engage them with his work here at LSU. And so he would do something called Wound of the Week, where he would, I hope I'm not violating HIPAA, but where he would highlight a special medical procedure or something that he'd been involved with that week while they were eating their breakfast. So, but that does bring me to my last point, and that is that Joe's calling, which you've seen, vocation, is to care for people, and he does that beautifully here. He does that in the church community, and I am very confident that in retirement he will continue that vocation for many, many years. So thank you.
Okay, I'd like to bring up Jessa Gilmore. He's the Director of Development for the Foundation for a special announcement.
Thanks, Dennis. My boss, Kevin Flood, would have loved to be here. He's the president and CEO of the foundation, but he's on a beach right now, so I don't feel too bad for him. I think he hasn't had a vacation in 3.5 years. We'll give him that. There's really nothing I can say that you don't already know about Joe. So I'll do the millennial thing and I'll quote obscure television. So, any fans of the show Westworld out here? Maybe a hand or two? Okay. So on Sunday's season finale, they had this quote, and it was, "You live as long as the last person who remembers you." Joe, everyone in this room will always remember you. Everyone you treated and every life you touched will remember you. But I'm really pleased and proud to announce now that with the Joseph M. McCulloch Endowment, your name and your memory will be indelibly linked to the Health Sciences Center and especially the School of Allied Health, where your memory will go on and serve this institution long after all of us are gone. And I thought about this. There's a few names that come to mind when you think of the history of the Health Science Center. Dr. Holobeck, Dr. Muslow, Dr. McDonald. Well, your name should be up there too. This place was built by you. We're literally sitting in it. And it will not be the same after you. But so far, in our efforts to fundraise for your endowment, we've had a lot of success. A lot of people love you, Joe. Everyone in this room loves you. We've raised about 75% of what we need to start an initial endowment in Joe's name. And we're well on the way to getting to a full, formal professorship, which can be someday handed to a faculty member that would be honored to have your name. So, Joe, I've only known you for three and a half years since I started, but I've always known you to be an institution. And this institution will not be the same without you, but hopefully you're not going to be going very far, and this will always be here. So folks, if this is something that you're passionate about and you want to see live on, behind me on this desk, we have some business reply envelopes and a couple of flyers about it. You can always just go to our websites or give me a call. I mean, I'm a millennial. My phone's on me all the damn time. So call me, and I'll make sure his memory lives on. So Joe, thank you. Thank you.
And Joe, you are not getting off easy. It is now your time to come and address the crowd.
This is being recorded, Debbie reminds me. Okay. Well, you know, if you all know me, you know that I don't like solemn events. So this is going to be a fun party. It's not going to be a bunch of, you know, tear jerking and all that stuff. We're going to, you know, it's going to be light. But I do want to thank some people. You know, every morning when I get up to go to work, Gail, who is an attorney, would love to stay in bed. You know, I've never seen an attorney who says, "I just can't wait to get to the office." But I kid here that, you know, I've only really worked about 4 days of my entire 38 years here because I really love what I do so much. And it's because of all the people here. I've always tried to pick good people when I do hiring, and as Dennis said, get out of the way and let them do their job. Sometimes they don't do it quite as I'd hoped. I need to get back in their way for a few minutes. But overall, it's been a fabulous thing, and you know, this building, this school here is a testament to that it runs very well. We joke about the people on the other side of the street over there. We're so happy you all came across the street to us today. It was not a hard walk, was it? It was hot, I know, yeah. But, you know, we're always going in that direction because that is the, you know, the corpus of the medical center is over there. But we have a lot of good things over here, and I think it's because of all the people that are here. It's great to see friends, especially students that have come back. That's who you really hope that you've had an impact if you can, you know, look back on your career and say that you've done something that has benefited someone in an educational way that they can carry that on. And I've always told students and staff that I could only take them as far as I had been myself. So it was very important to me to continually be learning and engaged, and working with young people really helped that to happen. One person I really want to recognize, as I said, I mentioned Gail and the boys. Neither of the boys could be here today. One is working in Dallas. We'll see him Saturday, and the other could not get off today. But they had a special surprise event for me several weeks ago. One of the biggest surprises of my life. Gail said I truly deserted her at this moment as we're walking in to the Robinson Film Center for this surprise event where some of our friends from out of town had come in and everything. Gail has this story she's worked up. She's just a master at concocting stories and trying to keep me in the dark. But she said that she was thinking of looking at that as a possibility for our son's rehearsal dinner. He's getting married next October to this lovely young lady sitting here who's in our OT program. She got in on her own merit, not a word from the dean, I swear to the Lord. Okay, but anyway, so Gail says, I just want to look at that space. It's kind of industrial, but maybe we could partition it off some way and make it, you know, something that would be, you know, kind of fun and intimate. And I said, okay. We were supposed to be meeting people for dinner, our next door neighbors. So we walk off the elevator, and she says, well, let me just run in here real quick. She turns left, and I'm like, wait a minute, Gail. They've got that decorated for some kind of function. There might be a party going on in there. She goes, well, I'll just peek inside. And so I'm just standing here waiting on her, like, yeah, she's going to do what she wants to do anyway. And she opens the door. Well, the room is dark. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. So I go to flick the lights on for her, and all of a sudden I see all these little eyes staring at me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a surprise party. Gail, get out of there. I turn and run in the other direction, and everybody hollers surprise, and I'm mortified. I'm like, oh, I've got to go in here and apologize and drag her out of this room. And it wasn't until I was in the room and saw my son from Dallas there that I realized I was the surprise. And so, you know, if you ever want anything planned, she can sleuth it out. So, Belinda, come up here, please. The other person I want to thank, 28 years of the 38, she's been by my side, and her primary job, is Connie here? Where's Connie? Hey, Connie. I'm glad you're in the back of the room. Her primary job was to keep Connie away from me. Belinda, these are for you.
Thank you.
Connie always kidded Gail that she was my work wife and Gail was my home wife, and that she kept saying, how come you do so much more for your work wife than you do for my for your home wife than you do for your work wife? And anyway, but so Belinda's job was to keep Connie away from me so that she didn't harm me in any way, shape, or form, and she did a great job. So thank you very much. The other job was to keep people out of my office that were really causing me a pain in my neck, and she did a great job at that too. I never made her lie. Anytime someone called and says, is Dr. McCulloch in? She would tell me who it is. I would step out in the hall and she would say, I'm sorry, he's not in his office. Can I take a message? So thank you, Belinda. I love you dearly.
Love you too.
And whoever gets you will have a gym. So thank you. Okay. And again, you know, all of you, we've worked together in some way as friends, as co-workers, etc. I hate it when people say they work for me. No one has ever worked for me. We've always worked together. We work with, not for, remember that. And I just wish you all the best. Let me dispel some rumors. Gail and I are not packing up and leaving town. Everybody says, well, your house is on the market. Yes, it is on the market. And if you want to buy it, we'll be happy to talk to you. Forget about this endowment. Come and talk to us. We are downsizing. The only people that live in that two-story house are Gail and I. And we don't even have our pet anymore. So the whole second floor is, we have to check it to make sure no one's moved in when we're not aware, or there's rats or whatever up there. So we're downsizing. We're looking for a smaller place here, waiting for Brett and Emma to decide what they're going to do. And when they get married and see where they're going to settle down, we'll make some decisions. But we will be here. We are looking to hopefully buy some vacation property in North Carolina at some point and maybe move up there many years from now, but not tomorrow, people. So, Chris, I'll still be doing Pathfinder's curriculum for the fall, okay? And Robert Stroud started that wound of the week thing. I did not discuss my wound patients. Shame on you, Robert. However, I do want you to notice one of the best things I've ever received as a gift. Dr. Valulis, who is the head of plastic surgery in our diabetic foot service, gave me this little flower. It's in a little foot. So this is representative of the work we did in the diabetic foot service. Thank you, Dr. V. So, okay, that being said, Lisa, it's back to you, and thank you all. This means so much to have this place filled with something besides patients, though we do appreciate their contributions to this place too. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Joe. And wrapping up, we just want to salute Dr. McCulloch for his contributions to the School of Allied Health and the LSU Health Science Center in Shreveport, and to thank him for being an ambassador of our institution through his service on community boards such as the Shreveport Chamber of Commerce, the Volunteers of America Literacy Program, the Robinson Film Center, as well as his church, First Presbyterian, where he has served as a deacon, elder, and trustee. We also salute Joe for his known commitment and love of his family. We know that you will be missed, and that we wish you, Gail, Brett, and Bowen many happy days ahead as you embark on this new journey of retirement. And on behalf of our Chancellor, Dr. Golly, Jerry Villar has a present for you. Joe. And we now have another special presentation, if Tony and Dennis would come forward. It's the party that just keeps giving. So it's official, you will not be forgotten. So again, on behalf of our Chancellor, Dr. G.E. Golly, I want to thank everybody for being here today for this special celebration, just as a small way of sharing with Dr. McCulloch and Gail how much that he and she have meant to our institution. And everybody just stay and visit and have a good time. And again, we wish you all the best.